Hello, and welcome back to another tutorial from me, Lacey, Valkyrie Racing. And today we're going to talk about breeding 101 and more specifically, how to breed if you do not have access to breeding reports. Now, in order to even get to this process, you have to have already signed up for a photo finish account. And if you have not done that, I will put a card up top there so you can go back to that video about how to sign up for photo finish. And then subsequently, there was also a video about buying your first horse. So at this point, you should have a mare, a female to breed. Otherwise, there's no point in this video. So let's get started. So a lot of my videos talk about defining your goals. And defining your goals is actually very important. You want to know ahead of time what your strategies are, what your plans are. Because if you just go into the barn and slap two horses together, and then afterwards you're like, oh, well, damn, I really wanted this in my stable. I really wanted to try doing this. You're going to have regrets, and then you're going to end up having to wait a whole season before you can do it all over again and try and do it right. So always define your goals first. And goals are different for everybody. So we'll go through just some of what they can be. But like I said, there's so many strategies in this game that it'll be a never-ending list. Your vision. So this is, before you start breeding, you need to have your goal in mind. What is your end goal? Even if it might not happen, because there is a certain degree of RNG when it comes to what happens when you combine the DNA. What are you trying to attempt? What would you like to have in your barn? So one goal, are you trying to build up preferences, which are stars? Are you trying to jump up several grades? Are you trying to get your B mare to give you a much higher grade horse? Are you trying to go up to maybe hopefully getting an A plus, or would you be okay just going and getting say a B minus, that kind of thing? Number 3, are you trying to stack strong stats on top of one another? Or are you trying to build up weaker stats? Number 4, are you trying to make a horse with a cool coat color? And you'll see what I mean when I show you the example that we'll go through. And it is the thing. Just ask Guinevere about her cookie horses. People do like their coat colors. Number 5, injecting a well-known breed line into your own, i.e., do you have to have that Eclipse blood or Elvis blood, or is there a bloodline that you truly want to incorporate into your own? And then number 6, are you trying to cross archetypes? Do you have an LDF horse, but you really want to get into RDF, but you can't afford to also have an RDF horse? Well, then you take that LDF mare into an RDF, and then you're trying to build up that way. And these are just some of the things that come to mind when you are trying to figure out what your goals are in the breed barn. And you can be trying to do 1 or 2 of these, or all of these, or things that aren't even listed. So definitely think ahead of time before you enter that breed barn. What are your goals? What are you trying to do? And that will help guide you when you're looking through all the studs that are in the barn, because there are a lot. All right, so let's go to the horse I have in mind. I have one horse that still needs to be bred, and this is a horse I just bought. So this is a Yamzob. I did not name this horse. Like I said, I just bought this horse. Have no idea the meaning of that. Now, when we go back to the previous slide where it says, what are your goals? Are you trying to build up preferences? So like for this mare, she's got full left preferences, no dirt preferences, and half a star firm. So are we going to want to try and build up an LDF line? LTF was not an existing archetype. It is something that we are having to try and build from different, breeding different kind of archetypes together to make LTF. Do I want to try and do that since she's got no dirt stars? Do I want to try and find an LTF boy in the barn? Or do I want to try and find an LTS with like hardly any soft stars and try and build that? So when you look at your stars, it's also about thinking about your archetype. What do you want to do? Do I just want to try and build the best LDF I can? So I want to find a stud with some really high dirt and firm stars, and maybe some even full pref left stars, so I can really build up the stars on this horse and keep her LDF. So that's the first thing. Now she's an S minus, going on to number 2. Do we want to try and jump up several grades? Her role is, I'd say, okay. It's not great. She definitely needs some work. So at this point, I would probably be thinking about doing some slow breeding, which I'll get into on the next slide, and just probably breed her with an S at the max, maybe, and then try and just do some slow breeding. And I'd rather build up her prefs slowly, since she does have some that are kind of anemic, like Heart, which is an A, which is not great. So, and that gets me to number 3. Are we going to stack strong stats on top of one another, or build up her, weaker stats? Do I want to find horses that are more complementary? Like, do I want to just really emphasize that temper, or do I want to find a horse that's got much stronger heart and maybe stamina, and bring those up hopefully to at least maybe an S minus level? So, that's something else you have to consider too. She, looking at her bloodline, Aqua, Ticket Taker, they were primarily long distance horses, and looking at her results, she looks like she ran best at long distance, even though that's still not very good. So, you have to look at, well, then if I want to build up long distance preferences, I really don't care about start. So I won't look for a horse that has like S plus start, because start doesn't matter to me if I'm trying to build up a long distance horse again. But these other stats do matter to me, and heart will matter. So I would be looking to emphasize her heart and really bring that up, because that's bad. And then, do I want to make a horse with a cool coat color? Well, this is a cookie horse, is what Guinevere calls them. Let me show you. We have new 3D feature. Oh no. Oh, there she is. Okay. So you can turn them around and check them out. But there we go. So do you want to build a cute or cool looking horse? That's absolutely some people's goals. I think it's an ancillary goal of mine. I do like my horses to look pretty cool, but stats and prefs are king, of course. So number 5, are you looking to inject a well-known breed line into your own, i.e. like that Eclipse blood for LDF? I mean, you can go with a barn. You filter LDF, and it starts from S plus and will go down to B as you go. So who do we have here? We have Wyatt Earp, Andalusia. These are all bred horses, except for Apollo. Apollo's down here. There we go. So Apollo is a well-known LDF stud, and he's long distance, but Can't use him because he's got the scuba puff, which we'll go into in another slide. So, but like I said, he's a well-known stud. Let's see. Scott Street, he's a sprinter, he's well known. So is there just anybody you really want to have in your bloodline, especially from the Gen Zeros, which are 13 years old at the time of this video? These horses will be giving us 12 or 11 more seasons of breeding, and then they will pass on. So is there any blood you absolutely want to have in your barn, directly from the source? When I say directly from the source, I'm saying from the age 13 Gen Zero stud itself. I should say Gen Zero stud itself, no matter the age. Or are you okay going to some of his progeny someday to trying to get the bloodline? But is there anybody directly, like Monarch, that you want to have in your barn? So that is definitely some people's strategies, and some people definitely want those original bloodlines. And then going back, number 6, are you trying to cross archetype? That goes back to my horse and talking about, crossing LDF and LTF. And, I could even breed with an LDS and try and make this horse an LDS. Just find somebody with strong soft prefs. So there's lots of strategies, lots of things to think about. But it's a good idea to have them in mind before you go to the breed barn, or you're going to be in there forever and probably changing your mind 10 different times and then going, oh, I forgot about this. So do it ahead of time, because then you can really filter the breed barn a lot better. Once you have all that in mind, it helps when you go to the breed barn to filter. There's lots of filters here. You can filter by just about anything now. So if you go to attributes, heart's missing on my mare. I can add, I want to look at studs that only have S heart. And then I can add, if I know I want to keep breeding that horse, say LDF, then I would put in left dirt firm. If I only want Gen 0, then I know right now they're a minimum age. I know all the Gen 0s are 13, so that I'll bring up all the Gen 0 studs. There's tons of filters here. Grade, just bloodline rarity. If you don't want any of the 101 blood, you can click that now, non-1 of 1 only, and it will not bring up any 1 of 1 blood in that entire bloodline, which is awesome. All right, so that covers all of those points. Then we get into what we call leapfrogging versus slow breeding. And that goes back to my mare who's an S-. And do I want to do some leapfrogging, which means do I want to try and breed like an S+, so I'll put her with an S+. It more so applies with lower grades because you have a much bigger gap. Do I want to breed my B with an S+ and try and get the highest grade possible but the problem is the cons of that is you can really sacrifice stat distributions, like get some really crazy, you get a B in start and an S in speed and just a motley crew of other stats that don't really lead to a cohesive horse. And then you've got more slow breeding, which is I'm going to put my A with an A+, maybe max an S-. Usually when people refer to slow breeding, they don't do more than 2 subgrades. So a B will max breed with a A-. And this is just personal preferences. And this is what people believe will make a better horse for them. Some people just want that high grade, and then they will work with what they get. Some people really believe slow breeding makes a stronger horse with better preferences or better stats, I should say. I don't think we've really seen anything conclusively either way, but when people talk about leapfrog breeding and slow breeding, that's what they're referring to. So take it with a grain of salt and maybe think about what you've seen and heard and what you've seen horses do on the track and make your own decision on what will work best for you. If you have more than one mare, you can try out both strategies, and over multiple breeding cycles, you can also do that. I've started out, I was a slow breeder only, and then I did jump to doing some leapfrog breeding, and so now I do both. And personally, I haven't noticed a huge difference either way yet. So I just more so bring it down to what are my goals and what am I trying to do? Because if I get a resulting offspring with poor stats, I just will build on that and work on breeding up that horse. Whether it's because they rolled bad from leapfrogging or they rolled bad just because they rolled bad. So watch out for inbreeding. Inbreeding, you don't want to do that. The penalties are pretty severe now if you inbreed a horse, and I'll show you what I'm talking about in a minute. And then what is 1-on-1 blood versus non-1-on-1 blood? That is getting into the PFPs that were made that bred the horses. So let me show you. All right, so going back to, let me find our mare. Nope, she's retired. And yams up. So the inbreeding conversation and 1-of-1 blood is kind of a conversation that goes hand in hand with each other. So when I talk about 1-of-1 blood, I'm talking about the special pictures, and there's certain ones that I will make a list for you. But we've got Scuba blood. He is a rarity 1. He is considered a 1-of-1. You've got Ticket Taker, which is a rarity 1, 1-of-1. Anytime you see rarity 1, that is a 1-of-1. There's only a few. There's only a handful. And if you can see them in the tree here, in this family tree, they will be counted when you go to breed. Okay? So you do not want to breed Yam Zob with a stallion that has any of these PFPs, profile pictures, any of these, or the horse names. You don't want to breed Yam Zob with Vengi or a Vengi grandmother, child, that kind of thing. If you see the name or you see the PFP, do not breed with that horse. So let's find one just so you can see. So you go to breeding. And let me think who would be a good one to use. Can. I know he shares something. So here's Can. We clicked on him in the breeding barn. So here's our male, our female. We click confirm. So I don't want a breeding report. And this is free only because I have free breeding reports because I have 20 PFPs I purchased. Okay. And this whole purpose of this tutorial is what we do when we don't have breeding reports. So Yam Zob and Can Pork Chop. Let's see if they can have a date. These are the parents of Yam Zob. These are the parents of Can Can Pork Chop. You click up another generation. So you have horse names over here. These are her grandparents. And these are his grandparents. You see he's got Ticket Taker over here. Remember back? She's got Ticket Taker in her great-grandparent line. They can't breed together. Two Ticket Takers will make an inbreed, which means this lovely S+, S-, which would hopefully have given us maybe an S- or an S, will probably give you an A or something around there. The penalties for inbreeding are severe. The offspring will not be even remotely what you thought you were going to get. Okay, so do not inbreed. Once again, if you can see it here, it counts. Now, if there was a whole nother generation after this, great grandparents, those fall off of counting as an inbreeding penalty. If Ticket Taker wasn't here, but was in a great grandparent, that would not be an inbreed. All right, but since he's here on this side and we see it, it's an inbreed. Don't inbreed. Don't do it. That's all I gotta say. Now you can run into issues with inbreeding even if you try and avoid all of those one-of-ones. You know, people are talking about non-101 blood. You want to have non-101 blood. You want to avoid those, rarity ones. Well, you can run into the same problem of inbreeding if you're using a stud that has something very popular in his line as well as yours. So if I go back to my girl, let's see who's in her line that's probably popular that we would want to avoid. Aqua Eclipse. He's popular. He's popular in LTS. Now, granted, we're going to avoid him anyway because we want to avoid scuba blood, but there's other horses out there that have scuba blood we have to avoid. So we also have to avoid anybody that has Aqua Eclipse in their bloodline. So if somebody is super popular, like Aqua Eclipse is kind of popular, but there's others that have been used so much. Just make sure the pictures are in both sides of the bloodline and neither are the horse names, okay? They all have to be their own individuals. So it's not just avoiding one-of-ones. Avoid popular horse names as well. Alrighty, moving on. So just a few notes. DNA is contributed as 50-50. 50% from the mare side and then 50% from the stallion side. Now, recessive genes do exist, and I'll show you what that means on another screen. And then resulting offspring have a 50-50 chance of being a filly or a colt. So it's completely 50-50 what it could be. Now, if you go to gapdata.racing, you will see on their stud page that some studs seem to give more female offspring than male offspring, and then vice versa. And then I'll show you that as well. And then gestation period is 1 season, i.e. max 28 days. So if you breed on the first day, you've got roughly 28 days to go. If you breed on the last day of breeding, you have roughly 21 days or whatever to wait for your offspring. The offspring will not be born till the first day of the following season. So you gotta be patient. All right, so this is gapdata.racing. we want to go to breeding, stud stats. All right. And here you can filter by the archetype, the broad archetype, just LT, RT, LD, RD, not soft or firm. But this gives you an example. Like Shawnee Bear, he has a high amount of offspring. He gives basically almost 50-50 colt filly. And you can look this up if you are stuck between maybe one or two studs and you really want to try for a filly, then you want to try for maybe a filly percentage ratio here where you have a 60% chance of getting a filly versus a 46% chance. But gap data has a lot of interesting data to go through, but I won't do that right now. But it is a nice little tool as well when looking in the breed barn. So I wanted to give you one example of recessive genes and what they might look like. And thank you to Wolof for showing me his horse when I was looking for examples. So when you breed off archetype, whether it's breeding soft to firm or dirt and turf, you have a horse that is some combination of that. We don't know how the algorithm works, how the DNA works out. In this case, the downgrade and classic girl, half star soft and 2 stars firm, ended up making a 0-star firm horse. It can say soft, but in this case, it says firm, so there's got to be some just smidge part of that DNA that makes it roll to firm. Otherwise, it would say 0 soft if it had just a smidge soft on there. Smidge is my very technical word. So Wolof bred Garrison Lane with Ace King, and you have 0 firm, 1.5 firm. So you would think the offspring would have some sort of firm stars, but it was from 0 to 1.5, maybe some sort of average. That's sometimes the way it works. And he got a 0 soft horse. So that means a lot of us are extrapolating that these soft recessive genes from back in here are encapsulated in this horse. Garrison Lane, for all intents and purposes, says firm, but in her DNA, she has recessive soft genes, and those came through in breeding full of Garrison. Same can be said if you find, say, this horse was dirt and this was dirt, but say these were turf. And all of a sudden, you breed 2 what you think are dirt horses, but you get a turf offspring because they've pulled some sort of recessive genes from back in the family tree into the breeding. Okay, and that is also when you breed cross archetypes, that's something to consider down the road. I do a lot of cross archetype breeding, and it's definitely something to consider in future breeds. Alrighty, so those go through the tips or notes on breeding. So your horse has made a love connection. Now what? So say you've gone through this whole process and you find the stud that you want to breed with. If you have your own stallion that is old enough to breed, you put them in the breed barn. You do not click in-house unless you're trying to protect that bloodline. And some people do want to protect their bloodlines. They think they have a really great bloodline, something that makes it unique, something that's hard to replicate, something that is valuable. And so it's something that they don't want to get out to anybody. Then you can make it in-house. So if you have a stud like that, click in-house. It's pretty rare. So most people put the horse to public, and public is the cheaper option for you as well, to breed internally, more or less. In-house just means that nobody else can breed with your stud. Public, anyone can pay the fee and breed with your stud. You will then find the stallion in the barn. Note there's the stud fee and a 20% breeding fee, which goes to third-time games, and I'll walk you through this. If you're breeding with your own stud, you must have the whole of both fees in your wallet, although only 20% breeding fee will be deducted from your balance. And then you complete the breed process, and then you wait. You wait till the end of the season, first day of the following season when it's born. That's that gestation period we talked about. All right, so I have a stud that I pulled out, and I will put him in for you so you can see what that looks like. So Coltrane, he's retired. He's not currently studying. If it's studying, it will say purple. If he is just retired, it'll say retired. So you click on him, and you want to put him out to stud. All right, so this is the minimum public stud fee currently. Currently it's 4,000 Derby, which is 50 USDC, and that is what the minimum stud fee is. There are a couple things you can click here that are informational also. Now, if you want to make in-house only, you will check that. This is that scenario where I said nobody else will be able to breed with him then. He is in-house only. Now, you can change this periodically throughout the breeding week, but for the most part, most studs are public. If you click in-house only, it shows you the in-house minimum is 8,000 Derby. Okay, so we'll unclick. Minimum is 4,000 Derby. So we will put Coltrane out to stud for 4,000 Derby. Now, if you put him into stud during the current breeding season, you cannot remove him. If he had been in there the prior season, which in this case he was, you can remove him. I just removed him and put him back. I'm putting him back in for informational purposes. Okay, so put up for stud. And then he is in the stud barn. All right. Now, let's see. I have decided for this round, I've gone through all my options and everything I wanted to possibly breed with, and I have decided to breed Yamazob with one of my horses, Zerath. So I will push breed horse, and I could go to my listings and he'll pop up, but for this I'll just search and I will click on him. It says here that he is my listing, and then here he goes. So my thought process, I am crossing archetypes here, is I'm breeding an LDF with an LTS, and personally I am just hoping that the horse goes pretty strong turf, even though it's mostly an average of the stars, but not always. And then I really don't care if he goes firm or soft for condition. The letter grades are complimentary. They'll pull up a lot of her bad stats. I'm trying to just, at this point, S minus and S. I don't care if the offspring is an S minus. I just want to build a strong horse. So if I get an S out of it, great. If not, no big deal. I'm just trying to build a strong horse. I'm trying to fix bad heart, poor stamina, and accentuate a couple of these other stats. Now you go through the parents. Nobody's in common. Nothing there. Nothing. No pictures in common. Okay. We have 3 different one of ones: scuba, ticket taker, and jockey. None of the other pictures are the same. None of the other horse names are the same. Okay. So no inbreeding penalties. All right. So you will click breed. Now, this is me breeding with my own stud. Okay. But the process kind of looks the same when you were breeding with somebody else's. So you click breed. Okay, and this will show you your balance. It'll show you how much the stud fee is, the stud fee cost, the service fee, which is a 20% fee. That's that fee that goes to third time. Now your total is $4,800. If you are breeding with a horse that is not yours, it will take this whole $4,800 derby. If you are breeding with a horse that is yours, it will only take the 20% service fee. It's not intuitive, but what will happen is it's basically automatically, this $4,000 is basically automatically returned to you, but you will never see it leave your wallet. And it can be scary at first if you don't know that, because you think, oh, it's my own horse. Why is it charging me $4,000 derby to breed with my own horse? Technically, it's coming right back to you. It almost like never leaves. So our balance is 92,970. If we confirm that breed, it should only go down technically 92,170. So confirm breed. And we'll refresh real quick. 92.170. So if you go out and look, Mama's pregnant. She is now pregnant. She is now a broadmare. She's a happy girl. So you go to my stable, go to stable financials, and you will see 800 was only taken out. It shows you bred with your stud for 800. It shows that the stud was bred with Yamzob. Okay, so even though you think, wait a minute, it's going to charge me $4,800, it only takes 800. Now remember, if that stud is not yours, it will say just this line, and it'll be $4,800. This line won't exist. This is because it's our own horse. And when people refer to internal breeding, that is what they are referring to. While you were waiting for those wonderful babies to be born, there are many things that you can do. A lot of people have multiple horses, so while you wait, they race their other horses. If you have a bigger barn, that's when you start strategizing. You can also start working on next season's breeding plans already. Take notes of studs that you liked but didn't use this time. Your mare only gives you one breed per season. So if you have 2 competing studs that are just neck and neck and you really regret not being able to breed with the other one, make a note of it, write it down. And then when the next season comes around, look him up, look at anything else new that's come into the barn, and then decide if you want to go with that one that you feel like you missed or if you want to go with a new one, and so on. If you have multiple brood mares or multiple horses, start strategizing how they and their offspring can fit into a broad plan for your stable. Map out family trees, genealogy. The bigger you grow, the more you breed. They all start to fit like puzzle pieces if you are like specifying or really working within just one or two archetypes. Then those start to fit together. You start having horse names that are similar, maybe, or PFPs. You don't want to start inbreeding within your own barn. That maybe when you have to bring in outside blood, maybe buy a different stud, just things like that. So this is very much a strategy game. It's a breeding game. It's a racing game. And you have to have goals. And that's why, first and foremost, try and always start with your goals and then have everything else fit into that plan. So breeding is a lot of fun. This is just a breeding 101 video. If you don't have breed reports, or you don't feel like you need them, or you can't afford them right now, but this is just simple basics of breeding. So I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe and share. You can always drop me a comment down below if you would like to see me do another video on something specific next. A lot of what the community talks about is what is driving my video making. And I look forward to seeing you on the track. Thanks, everyone.